Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We are here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
And Jack, today we are going to be doing an episode from
We usually do an episode.
Yeah, we do.
We did the movie that one time.
And this one will be no different. We're doing another episode. This time we're doing a Season 12 episode. We generally like Season 12, it seems.
Well, now you just jinxed it.
All right, and we're doing Day of the Jackanapes. First aired February 18th, 2001. That's before 9/11. It's an episode about Sideshow Bob, which I love Sideshow Bob. Mm-hmm. And you don't.
I do.
Is that a fair assessment?
No, I love Sideshow Bob. Of course I do. I have seen this episode. I don't remember. I remember watching go, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And I preface almost every Season 12 episode now like this. At the time, I thought it was terrible because it was post-classic, and now
I think now
we'll probably like it more.
Things may have changed.
It is Purgatorio, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I remember it was like the first Sideshow Bob episode in years because they were doing one a season.
Right.
And then it climaxed in Season 8 with the one with David Hyde Pierce.
Yep.
And that was like the perfect end because he redeemed
really
himself.
was,
He was good again. He became a good guy. I saved the children.
I love Kelsey Grammer and Frasier so much, but
exactly.
Continue.
And then I was really upset that they brought him back and kind of hit the reset button, and he's a bad guy again.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I have seen this one. I think I've seen it once. I don't recall ever. I have no idea what this episode's about. It's Day of the Jackanapes. I don't know what that means.
Day of the Jackal, I guess.
Well, I know, but Jackanapes is just something that Sideshow Bob says. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't
We're going to take a break in a moment and watch it. If you haven't seen it, you should do that too. You can do that on simpsonsworld.com in the United States, or you can do it wherever you've been watching episodes for the past 80 or so episodes. What episode is this? Is this episode 80? No, this is 79?
79.
All right, next time. It'll be our 80-vatery. So yeah, take a break. We're going to watch the episode, and while you're watching that episode... Maybe
that was a Nicolas Cage movie, right? No, it was Sandra Bullock.
80 Vatery?
Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. And while you were watching this episode.
While you were watching this episode, Peter Gallagher was in a Comer. A Comer? Hey, everybody, it's me, Comer.
It took place in Chicago.
I'm like Homer, but I'm not. All right. No, go to our website. It's wepodcast.com, wepodcast.com. Click through our links for Amazon and shop like you normally would. Get yourself a little something. It's getting nice outside.
Buy yourself something nice. Buy some sunscreen.
Get some sunscreen.
Although I heard it lowers your sperm count. Actually, it decreases your sperm quality. I don't know what the difference is. Like,
okay.
Are your sperms just like dum-dums now?
I guess, like Homer's lazy sperm.
Yeah, so that's even worse, I think.
Be like Smithers and have good sperm and shop on Amazon for all of your needs. Amazon sunscreen will not give you low, lazy sperm. So just go click through and buy it. Yeah, we're going to take a break, watch Day of the Jackanapes, and we'll be back.
Although I do have a question for you. Was the character of Comer so bad that even you trying to make it a thing, you were like, maybe this is too much?
I don't think so. This is Comer. I'm like Homer Simpson, but loud.
You realize, right? It's not good.
That's it. Well, maybe we'll find out some characteristics about me in a little bit.
You gotta be self-aware enough to realize it's terrible.
I work at a factory that makes smaller factory equipment.
All right, well,
that's one.
I'm sure everybody will love him and ask for an AMA on Reddit.
Chief, you might want to take a look outside.
That's it! Kill Krusty! Just like you'll kill him tomorrow night!
Oh, it's so great to see a kid using a wooden bat. These days, it's all aluminum this and George W. that.
So, that was the Day of the Jackanapes.
It sure was. Jackanape.
Okay, yeah.
Like your name, but I extended it to Jackanape. That's the full name.
Or I thought you were saying that you're saying, so, Jack and an ape.
Yes. Well, we do have a guest here in studio.
We don't have an ape in here. We have a guest who is very un-ape-like, Christine
A lady
Hnath.
ape. Hi.
Well, okay.
A Jillanape.
How's it going, Christine?
I'm doing very well.
We should formally... Christine Hnath is our guest.
That's me. Hi.
I said that, but you're all talking over me.
Well, no one's...
About Jill and apes.
Hey, everybody! Wacky podcast.
I'm just kidding. I'm not an ape.
So you're a creationist. Okay, that's why we brought you here.
Yeah, we're just trying to get some outside perspectives
that's
on
what
the
we
show.
want. That's what we want.
No, you might know Christine if you listen to our 90s percentile. She was on last week. And you might also know her from her podcast, which is, what's it called?
Yes, it's called the RHONY Recap. It is a recap, as it sounds, of the Real Housewives of New York. My sister and I drink a bottle of wine, and we talk about that week's episode. So Check it
Sounds
out.
Well,
delightful.
We should drink a bottle of wine.
Maybe we should.
Maybe,
I would be very into
maybe
that,
that
actually.
would quiet the voices in your head. And
I have to say, it starts out great because you've got that first glass, like a couple of sips, feeling good, feeling loose, talking, and then by the end, we've just devolved into giggles and talking.
That never happens on this show.
No, very straightforard.
Certainly
Simpsons
not an episode
podcast.
where we've been drinking either. Yeah.
So, real quick plot recap. This is a Sideshow Bob episode.
Yep.
Like I said, like we said in the intro, the first post-classic Sideshow Bob that takes place after he was arrested for a crime he didn't commit with his brother. Cecil.
I almost said
I
Hector.
keep calling him Niles.
I almost said Hector.
There's
Definitely not Hector.
Is there ever a Frasier crossover?
I don't think David Hyde Pierce has once ever played a character named Hector in any.
Not yet. My Here Comes Hector spec script is going to take off, though.
You gotta send that to
really
David
gotta.
Hyde Pierce. If
He's looking for work.
I really got
have
it.
David Hyde Pierce's people call your people.
I will.
For Here Comes Hector.
Call me up. I'm a big Frasier fan. There's lots of in-jokes for Frasier heads.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Are they called Frasier heads?
They are now.
There's gotta be they gotta have a name.
Frasier friends. No, that's not good. The Craniacs. I don't know.
The Craniacs isn't bad.
What was the name of his talk show, like his radio show?
It was just
Tossed
I think it
salad
was just
and
a
scrambled fans.
There is a Frasier podcast called Tossed Salad and Scrambled podcast, I think, or something
It's
like
too bad
that.
that became a sex thing.
Well, that's I always assumed Frasier was talking about the sex thing.
Yeah.
Seattle's a very open-minded.
It is.
We're just eating butts on the old.
And
Oh, really? Now
scrambled
I don't
eggs.
eat butts. that famous episode of Frasier.
Dad, you really have to eat butts in my beautiful apartment with your chair.
They did have a season 1 Simpsons crossover with Frasier. Everyone was eating
Everyone
butts.
was eating. Hey, babe, let's eat some butts, babe.
Christine, before we were recording, I said, if you hear any weird voices, just roll with it. That would be an example.
Okay,
of
Was
that.
that was a Frasier impression?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I tried to. I
That
was
season
thinking,
1
can I
Simpsons.
do like a Scottish or whatever it is, Irish accent with is it Rose? I only watched Frasier.
It was Daphne.
Daphne,
She's
English,
Cockney
right?
British.
Yeah,
Oh, Daphne Moon.
I
I watch a lot of Frasier. She's becoming Irish as I'm talking.
I spared you and the listeners my attempt because it would actually be worse than that somehow.
I've
That's
learned
possible.
I don't
I've
believe
learned
that.
that saying anything about not doing voices just makes the voices more plentiful and louder.
You're kind of like a psychiatric patient, Jake. You're like, I hear voices only for this 1
Oh my
hour
God,
a week.
there really is a freak.
You should call into the talk show then. The Frasier
I
show.
should call the Frasier talk show that week.
Yeah.
I'm listening, right?
Well, that was his
that
catchphrase,
it?
but that wasn't the
Oh.
name of the show.
Oh,
I
that's
think
the
it was
name
just
of
the
the
Dr. Frasier Crane show.
That's a boring name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wish they had a better name. I was a big Frasier fan also.
that's
Just another characteristic.
Okay, so this is a Sideshow Bob episode, and
Yes.
it opens up with Krusty doing his show, and he's getting a bunch of notes from the network execs. Actually, it opens up with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Mo.
Me wanty.
on
We'll
that.
talk about that.
Yeah, and that's showing, I guess, how reality TV and stuff was in pop culture at the time. So we see a meeting with the network execs. They're giving Krusty a lot of notes about how to be hipper and more with it. He can't take the network notes, so he decides he's going to retire on his next show. He also mentions in an interview that he taped over all the old episodes that had Sideshow Bob on it. Sideshow Bob is so upset that he gets himself paroled, which you'd think he would have done anyway.
Right.
If
it's that easy, why not?
Just needed the motivation.
And he hypnotizes Bart to kill Krusty with a bomb. And just as he's about to do it, Krusty, on his final show, actually apologizes to Sideshow Bob and says, I'm sorry, I treated you wrong, which he didn't. Bob framed him for murder. He had every right to be upset.
True.
And Bob feels bad, and he does. Actually, Bob doesn't do anything. Mr. Teeny saves the day anyway, and throws the bomb in a room full of network executives who don't die because they're T1000s.
They are the T1000. Yeah.
And Sideshow Bob and everybody make up there, and they have dinner. Krusty, Bob, Sideshow Mel, The Simpsons, and the episode ends with Bob about to get the guillotine and get the death penalty for, I guess, killing the T1000.
Much more so than some of our recent episodes. That was a very concise recap because this episode actually does have a very
tightly
straightforward,
structured,
good story.
Yeah, very.
It has other problems, which we'll get
Yes,
into,
we
but
will.
that's...
Yeah, there was no real B plot or anything. It was just A
it's
plot.
all A plot.
All A plot. So yeah, there was no B plot. The B plot, I guess, is basically there is a B plot if you B theme where
Like the theme to B movie?
The B theme, B theme to B movie, written by Hans Zimmer.
Yep.
Bombs. And then there's like organ and like.
Why do we talk
chanting.
about B movies so much?
Why do we talk about Hans Zimmer so much?
Because he's amazing. I love Hans Zimmer. That's
So-
why.
There you go. There's your answer.
Yeah.
Asked
It
and
wasn't a
answered.
rhetorical
No,
question.
I wanted to answer it. I love Hans Zimmer. I'm on the record now. His Superman theme was the only good thing about Man of Steel. Continue.
It was well, no, it wasn't. But
Yes, it was.
It was a good theme. The music in Batman vs Superman was
Still haven't seen it.
very meh.
Still haven't seen it.
All right, let's talk about this very first scene. The Who Wants. Actually, I want to talk about this in general. I didn't like the network executive B theme.
No, me neither.
Because, and I saw it was written by Al Jean. This was very much a rich television writer writing about something very, very specific to his life and industry that there are thousands of people who will understand. People who are not in the industry, such
Right.
as myself, will understand.
Well, we
but
can- we
a lot
understand
of people
it,
won't.
But it
Or
does come off as very whiny.
You also don't relate to it.
I don't really relate to it, no.
On a just emotional level. Who cares about who here is getting notes? I mean, yeah, your boss might micromanage you,
Well,
but
actually,
this was very much about like.
I wonder if that
actual
has
notes.
has anything to do with the TV climate at the time, because
It
they did
totally
start
does.
like it started with that, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire parody of reality TV becoming this monolith within television culture,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the creatives, the writers and the animators and stuff, feeling like everything is about getting that reality TV show audience as cheap as possible and as big as possible. Because Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at the time was
That was
gigantic.
huge.
that was the show
Yeah.
that launched the reality
Yeah.
TV
Or
era,
that's
which
a
is
game
which
show,
is
but-
not a
Well,
fad.
Survivor launched. That was like the game
Right.
show version. The
That-
game
yeah.
show offshoot of the reality
Millionaire
ever.
Birth begat Survivor. Survivor begat the
No, I don't think it begot Survivor.
Interestingly
It
enough,
was on when Millionaire came out, I think.
Came out 3 years after.
Fox
No, really?
originated those big audience reality unscripted television with Cops, because during the writer's strike,
Yeah.
Well,
I
there
think
was
in
always reality
'88.
TV. Yeah,
There was always reality TV. I mean, to me, I don't consider Who Wants to Be a Millionaire a reality show. It's a game
no, it's
show.
not a reality show, but it was
It kicked off a whole thing of very serious primetime game shows, though.
No,
Weakest Link,
that
Greed.
Too.
But most
Millionaire
importantly,
Success led
unscripted.
to reality.
Right.
That there is no creative input.
I agree with you on that.
Survivor was a big one, but
Yeah.
it was a direct result.
But just
of
a note
Millionaire.
about the network notes. Looking on the Wikipedia page, Al Jean wrote that into this episode based on an experience he had with a different TV show, not The Simpsons. I believe he left.
You wish.
I was just going to say it was
It was
Teen Angel.
Teen
I'm
Angel.
almost positive it probably actually was
The
Teen Angel.
network, we're giving him too much
It
notes
lines
for Teen
up
Angel.
time-wise. I
Was
think
that
they might
that
have.
TGIF show?
It sure
I
was.
remember it. He dies from eating an expired hamburger.
Yes. Oh, we have a Teen Angel expert
It was a
on.
dark episode. It was basically the TGIF version of The Leftovers.
Oh, can we talk about The Leftovers for an hour?
Yeah, let's do that.
If you want to
Listen to 90th percentile.
listen to our 90th percentile episode.
Crossover.
The Perfect Strangers episode, obviously.
Yeah, that's about The Leftovers.
Yeah. So no, it was a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing. Actually, wait. Let's go back because I wanted to keep talking about the
Yeah.
network execs.
This is the B theme.
It was the B theme. Yeah, I didn't like it, but I think it could have worked. I think it just wasn't very funny. It was hammering the same point
Yeah,
constantly.
It was very specific, and it was like the
Network
the
executives
way-
are annoying.
It was very.
That's the joke.
I thought you were talking about the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh no, I'm talking about the networks thing.
No, it was kind of just generic stuff. Even people who are not in the industry like us get it. It's like
Yeah.
they have very specific notes
think-
about using made up words that sound like buzzwords.
I think
and
everybody could get it. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to work in TV to get it. It wasn't as funny as it might have
It wasn't
been.
as funny as it could have been, and there's no emotional connection. I can't relate to that. That's not why
Right. And weird as it was, the Terminator thing, did that do anything for you? The fact that they actually did a slight Terminator reference at the beginning when Krusty's driving away in a golf
Yeah.
cart and he's clawing like the T-1000 did in the movie, and then at the end they literally are liquid metal. How did that work for
And then
either of you?
came
didn't
back
like-
as like a deformed version, like
Yeah.
a Siamese twin
Yeah.
version of
that
itself.
was the part of the T-1000 parody. But I'd rather get into that when we talk about the end, because I thought that was the weakest part of the ending.
The T-1000 bit
And
in
the
specific?
ending, well, the T-1000 bit was the weakest part of the ending. The ending was the weakest part of the story.
Yeah,
So
I don't
that's
disagree.
Why, I want to talk about that more in depth later.
All right, then let's talk about the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing.
Me Wanty. I do like that
Me
title.
Wanty. I love that title. I think
Yeah.
that's hysterical. And I love that it was Mo who was on it.
Yeah, it was a likable Mo. It wasn't rapey Mo.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Mo wins $500,000, and that just doesn't seem to be a factor in anything ever.
Yeah, I assumed he was going to lose it. Like, or
Right,
the,
I was waiting
yeah.
for him to,
Yeah.
pick Proton instead of Bon Bon.
Yeah. No, it was weird. Yeah, it was especially because you're right. I think a part of that is why it's so weird that he won too. Is that it really didn't serve any purpose except to set up this network executive.
Which I didn't think was so bad. Like
No,
we always say
no.
that they always do the non sequitur opening.
Yeah.
This one actually, the transition from that into the
Worked
network
well,
executives. Yeah, I thought it worked pretty well.
Just the scene itself didn't really work for me because it was making fun of very specific things about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, like Regis
Right.
doing the oh, I'm sorry, but the answer is correct.
Yeah.
and all those very specific
stretching things.
Yeah.
They told him to stretch it out for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
definitely did
exactly.
that.
And like maybe they were the first to do this, probably not, but those things that people were pointing out about the show,
Right.
everybody has pointed out. You're not doing anything new. It's almost
Well,
like
are we saying that because we're watching it in 2016? Because I think at the time it was still very much in the
yes,
culture.
But that's bad then if you're making something, if you're doing a parody of something and it's so specific that it, like if I watch Airplane now, the fact that it's a parody of movies that were very popular at that time,
Right.
It still works.
It's a parody of one specific movie.
Yeah, this one almost dated itself by being the jokes were so specifically like calling out to like, hey, the show does this,
Right.
rather than being independently funny on their
I
own.
think it's almost a case of, like, I remember I watched that movie, Some Like It Hot, when I was in college, and it's a movie about two guys cross-dressing as women, and all of the jokes in it I know now as coming from somebody that's watched all the movies of the
references
70s.
to those. Yeah,
all of
yeah,
the-
Yeah.
Like, I see that as like, oh, that joke's been made 1,000 times, but they were making it the first time. So the audience that was watching it
Yeah.
in 54 or whenever
Well,
it
it's
came
like-
out.
Like if you saw Lockout and then you saw Die Hard and you'd never seen Die Hard before, are you going to be like, oh man, this movie is just like Lockout, except it's not in
Right,
space. It's even worse.
No, but I would want Lockout
Lockout's
to
a
be
solid movie,
but
by the way.
That's what I'm saying. I would want Lockout to be independently a fun movie.
I see what you're saying.
So
Okay.
these jokes only were funny because
So
of
they're-
they like the joke I did like was
Yeah.
Mo saying, well, you did ask me to stall there.
Yeah.
And like that's funny even if I didn't know that that's a thing they make guests do. So
Right.
that joke works. But that was
I
the
get
only
you.
joke. All the other jokes were specifically like
It's like, hey, you ever notice this about Millionaire?
Yeah, exactly. They're
I
standard.
get
I
you.
kind of
I
want to
hear you.
see the episode of what Mo does with $500,000.
I would love to see that
he
episode.
would open M.
That's true. Or he'd get plastic surgery. Maybe we have seen this episode
I
already.
think we've seen it a few times.
One thing that I really liked in this the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire parody was when they say, do you want to go for the $1 million? And they lower a second barrel full of money. And then Mo is like, no, I'm going to take the money and go. And then she immediately just sets it all on fire.
Yeah.
I thought that was really
and
funny.
again, that really isn't making it. That's not a
No,
stand-up
that's just
joke about millionaires.
That's just a
funny
great
joke.
gag.
Yeah.
It's a good ass gag.
One other thing about I just want to get this beat. So the next scene is with the network execs, and they're giving Krusty these buzzwords, and they're saying you need to have more what was it like cute
Your Q rating is going down. We're losing
they
like
do
teens.
things where they combine two words. It was like education and cutertainment. It was like cutertainment or cuter.
Portmanteaus.
Yeah, they do like buzzy
I don't remember it.
portmanteaus, and I don't like. I thought it was. I don't know.
Buzzmantos.
Again, it's because he's just getting notes. That's the problem. Compare that to other industry episodes like where Krusty does a comeback special or they add a new hip 90s character named Poochie. Those are
Right.
broader, and it's like regular people can go, oh, I've seen this in TV. I get what they're parodying. Whereas, again, nobody gets network notes.
Well, but the Poochie episode is a good analog to this because it's very similar, but you're saying Poochie worked better for you. It was also
Well, it's
very notey and
because
very
it's broader,
buzzwordy.
Because it's broader. Yeah, those notey buzzword things were smaller parts of the joke of the thing, but
In the Poochie episode.
In the Poochie episode, but the Poochie episode wasn't. Hey, look at these guys giving all these buzzwords notes. The joke was Poochie. Whereas this was more about the actual. Hey, we're giving you notes and like.
So you're saying like the lines that Lindsay Nagel says, those are supposed to be funny as opposed to the situation in the Poochie
Yeah,
episode.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I get you.
Maybe it's because the impetus for this episode is that it has to push Krusty over to want to quit, and that's really the plot. It's not about the network, because with the Poochie thing, it's like, here, we're taking the network executives' advice, look at how it's backfiring, right?
Yeah.
And here, it's just, this is what pushes, anything could have pushed Krusty over
Yeah.
the edge. It could have
And
been
that's
too many
why.
commercials.
And that's why I don't like the ending, and that's why I want to like put a pin on that because that's exactly why the ending didn't work for me.
Why couldn't it should have been? It could have been something where it was just like reality TV is getting more popular and Krusty's show is losing ratings, so they cancel him or force him to retire or something like that. Like tie it in a little bit closer to the actual
what
reality TV thing.
It should have tied into whatever caused his tapes to be erased, because that's
that's a great point.
This now leads to they're doing an interview with Krusty. They're like, hey, Krusty, it's Kent Brockman doing a formal like Barbara Walters interview, and he's like, Krusty, you're ending your show on Friday, but you quit because you don't want to take the notes.
Yeah.
Did you ever look back at your old episodes? And he says, no, I burned them all, and that's what pisses off Sideshow Bob. It is A to B
Right.
to C.
Well,
what I'm saying is it could have been A to C.
I agree with you, and he doesn't say he burned them all. He says he recorded over them to tape Judge Judy, which I thought was such a lame gag. Like, this is the reason that Sideshow Bob's breaking out of jail, and I thought they could have made it a better gag than that. Like, I don't know. But
off the top of my head, I can't think of what, but they should have tied in. Why is Krusty
taping Judge Judy?
Why is Krusty doing his final show? And that should have been tied in directly with why is Bob's legacy lost?
Yeah, I agree.
It should have been one and the same. That would have been a great inciting incident.
I agree. So the network executives actually come on Krusty's show and kind of ruin it, and that's what drives him to retire. And I loved he announced his retirement, and Bart says, "Oh my God, what's it going to be like if Krusty's no longer on TV?"
Oh no, Homer says it.
Homer
right?
says it.
We get a thought bubble.
Homer gets we see a thought bubble of Homer's imagination where he sits down on the couch and says, "What's on TV?" And Bart says, "Nutsy the Clown." And Homer goes, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy." I thought the whole thing.
The Nutsy the Clown was very funny.
That was probably my favorite part of the whole episode.
And that's like a post-classic joke. That's not a type of joke I think I would see in the first 8 seasons. It was a little bit more sillier.
It felt very genuinely Simpsons to me.
It felt it felt more postmodern and silly to me.
I don't know. I could see that in like a season 8 episode.
Maybe season 8, yeah. But I loved it. I did love it.
Yeah. There's a quick lampshading joke, kind of winky wink at the audience that I didn't hate, where Krusty, I think it was Krusty, says it can get kind of repetitive.
No, Marge says it.
Marge says it, yes. It can get kind of repetitive, so the show needs to end. Yes, and then Smithers comes in the door and says, "Maggie shot Mr. Burns again!"
And he's just like waiting for them to respond, and they're all just like kind of ignoring him. And,
right. The joke being this episode that we're talking about wasn't even at the halfway point of their whole run. Has gone on too long. Did you guys like that joke or no?
I thought it was funny. I laughed out loud, actually.
It worked for me. I thought it was staged very well. I think it needed one more beat because basically they just hang on him waiting, and there's crickets, and the crickets that was a little easy, a little low hanging fruit. I thought it needed.
Oh, were there crickets? I didn't like that.
I thought it needed one more. Like, I get sometimes it's just funny for it to have like a character staring, like the negative space joke. But I thought it needed one more beat. But it did generally work for me for a very meta joke.
Yeah, using "Who Shot Mr. Burns" as the reference point and being like, "We're doing it again." I thought that was perfect. Like that's the one to do.
Maybe the extra beat could have been Maggie doing something, or just.
Was that a commercial cut line or no? Do we know?
No, it was not. It was not. It went on. I think Maggie rolled her eyes or something.
Break.
Maggie rolled her eyes as if to say, I shoot the old man all the time.
Yeah, like shrug. She should.
I'm Maggie. This is how I talk. I sound like Coma.
So there's kids sitting and doing a vigil outside Krusty Lou Studios, and I did like the very specific joke that the cops used timeout gas. I thought that was nice.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
okay,
it makes sense. They're kids.
Cute.
Timeout gas. Yeah, that's a heh.
Yeah, that's
it's not a huh.
It's not a huh. It's a heh. Yes, you mentioned Krusty's doing the interview. There were a few things in this episode that I remember as being earlier episodes. We've talked about this, how some of these season 12 episodes kind of got jumbled in our brains, and we remember random lines. Krusty on the show saying it's words that sound dirty, like muckluck. You like that one? Muckluck. Yeah. That I've always thought of. I had no idea it was from this episode.
Are you combining it with the season 6 episode?
Cucamonga.
Cucamonga.
I think I am.
Seattle.
I think I probably am.
They also played Muckluck over the Gracie Films.
They did at the very end. I don't know if you saw that, Jack.
Yeah. I don't know. That the muckluck thing didn't do much for me.
I never said I liked it. It's just something that's stuck in my head.
I think the first thing I thought of was Walla Walla, so I think that's what it's...
Like if you said muckluck to me out of context, like I have to go get my mucklucks, the first thing I'd think of is that scene.
Because you have the hard K's, so... Yeah. Kiyukuk.
K's are funny. Cucamonga.
Cucamonga. I think maybe that's where you're... That's where the neurons are crossing.
I think you might be right. Or you might be crazy, but it might just be a lunatic I'm looking for.
So... We see Sideshow Bob for the first time. He's watching from prison when Krusty mentions he taped over Judge Judy taped over all the old episodes. Besides, like I said, I do wish that it would have been a stronger inciting incident, but I was very happy to see that Bob did have a good motivation. I was really upset that Bob became evil again. I like redemption stories. I like that he became good in the season 8 episode with Niles / Harold
with Hector.
Hector. Yeah. So. I like that he was good, and I was like, oh man, I'm so pissed they made him a killer again. I was like, oh, you know what? That's good enough motivation. I was like, okay, he burned all your tapes. You have no legacy. Okay, I can see you wanting to kill Krusty now. Although I do say that later he does hypnotize Bart to blow themselves up together. I don't understand why he has any problem with Bart.
That was the point I was going to make. Yeah. The last time we saw Sideshow Bob, he was totally reformed.
He saves Bart's life.
He saved Bart's life, and now for some reason he's using Bart as a living bomb to kill Krusty. The Krusty thing sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and this is wasn't a problem like, hey, no, Sideshow Bob, Sideshow Bob shouldn't. There's no character continuity in The Simpsons. It's like, no, we know there's no continuity in The Simpsons. The problem is now you're rehashing old territory and adding nothing new.
Well, but with Sideshow Bob, there usually is some kind of continuity because it's always he's coming back for revenge on his old plans.
That is there. I do like some continuity, but I want to say that the problem really is more because if they make it work, they make it work. The problem is more we've seen this before and they're not adding anything new. Most of the Bob episodes in the classic era do have something different to say. There's one about TV again, TV culture, where he wants to nuke Springfield because he's tired of TV just showing the same old schlock.
Right.
There's the very heavily political one, which is really more about campaigns and elections than anything else.
The one where he tries to murder Selma is kind of just like a Simpsons doing a mystery episode.
Yeah, that was the first murder episode because the only Bob before that was about
armed robbery.
Armed robbery, yeah.
Now in this one, there were some like meta notes towards like this is the 5th time I've tried to kill you, and Skinner and him having like a kind of little laugh about how much they hate Bart, and also the rakes thing with Bart being like, I thought I was your nemesis. So I thought they were kind of nodding towards the you've seen this.
The Sideshow Bob
legacy.
legacy.
Yeah. That's great to do. I'm just saying if you're going to do a Sideshow Bob story, don't do the same. A lot of this was the same stuff. He does a to-do list. He does a parole scene.
Right.
Like the parole, you can't do a better parole scene than Cape Fear, and even if you are, it's the same scene again. Do different things with Bob.
Which is why I liked. We see the scene. Sideshow Bob has a reason to get out of jail. It was good. I think it could have been stronger. Like maybe have the network executives ask Krusty, like, "Oh, can we tape over old tapes?" And he's like, "I'm retiring. I don't care what you do." Something like that.
What if they have Bob come out of prison specifically to have him on the reunion show? Like we want you to have big guests for your final show. They're giving him notes. They're like, the audiences love when old characters come back.
Right. Maybe something like that.
But if Krusty said no, who cares about Sideshow Bob? Then he would have to say it publicly.
Maybe it would have gotten. Yeah, maybe they would have gotten Bob paroled. They say all you have to do is say yes, Krusty, and Bob's out of jail. And it's like, I'm too busy.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
But I did like you were saying, Cape Fear did the parole thing so well. I like that this episode didn't try to top it. It was very perfunctory.
But then don't have the scene at all. You're just wasting time now.
Well, no, I thought the parole scene wasn't good. There were no good jokes in it.
The Tom Clancy thing was not funny. It was they were trying too hard to make him erudite. Well, it wasn't a smart erudite joke.
I kind of did like when he says the prison book club is nothing but prisoners clothing me with books.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Not the Tom Clancy. Oh, it was better than reading him.
Yeah.
Do you think they were like somebody watching, considering they're making it for somebody that's watching it week to week in the present when this aired? Do you think they were trying to do fan service of like you haven't seen Sideshow Bob in however many seasons, episodes, years? Remember how we do this gag? Remember how we do this one?
I think that's part of it, yeah, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
I think it was for like a new viewer to kind of understand, this guy's in prison. This is how he gets out of prison. This is what happens next.
But we don't need that scene. If he's out of prison, the next scene, there's a line.
I don't know. That scene was fine to me.
the Rob Lowe line from Thank You for Smoking. It's like, good thing we invented the something or other.
Yeah, right.
It's like, all right, Krusty got out on the prison overcrowding or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you, President. What was it?
I don't remember. I haven't seen Thank You for Smoking forever.
No, I'm talking about The Simpsons.
I haven't seen The Simpsons in forever.
Thank you, President Ford, or something like that.
That show? You still watching that?
We're still watching The Simpsons? Isn't it not good anymore?
I don't know. I'm just watching Leftovers now.
I time traveled from 1992. What are you guys watching now?
The Simpsons.
Yeah, I love The Simpsons.
We're also still in Iraq.
And something else from
we
1990.
have a black president.
Crystal Pepsi is the thing.
Crystal Pepsi. Really plugging 90s percentile.
That's right. 90s percentile. Listen to Christine's episode. It was a winner.
Yeah, no, I thought like the to-do list, the erudite joke. Well, the erudite's more character jokes, but the to-do list, the parole hearing, a lot of these were the same beats. The
erudite thing. Sideshow Bob had a line when he was still in prison where he scoffs at Krusty on the TV and he says, "I was the risible part of our dyad," and I was like, "That's too much.
It's too much."
That
what
was
I actually
way too
like
much.
better, and I thought this episode did fairly well, is when Bob is humbled because it's really funny to see him all proper and erudite. It's pretty much just why he got the job in the first place. When a pie accidentally went in his face and his hair, he gets humiliated well. So I love when he drops his quarter and he goes, "I need that for my laundry."
Yes, that was a great line.
That was very funny.
There was another one. I have it here. Where he eventually he stays in a storage unit. We'll get to it.
Yes,
but
that's my next
you
note.
Just hear the scene ends with a knock, bug spray, and suddenly the bug spray just fills the room he's in.
Yes.
Like him being
being taken down multiple pegs.
If that was Homer in there, it wouldn't be as funny. If Homer drops the quarter, that's not as funny. But seeing Sideshow Bob, my laundry,
yes.
I need that for my laundry.
The funniest part of elevating Sideshow Bob is to knock him down.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think the show did that well. And then they also do erudite jokes jokes very well, and it shows you how they don't do them well here with like the Tom Clancy thing, and they're trying too hard with the fancy words, and it shows you how Bob's such a great character. You just gotta write him just a little bit, just to give him a little push, and it'll work. Whereas if you're trying too hard, it's way too much.
Right. I feel like a lot of that is Kelsey Grammer. Like his voice he's got such a great voice, and the way he plays Bob is so perfect that he can do a lot to make Bob.
You don't have to write it funny.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
He can make it funny, and you don't need to put risible and dyad in there.
You don't need to abuse a thesaurus to get it.
I was the more amusing one in our duo.
Yeah.
Like Kelsey Grammer can make that sound really highfalutin and funny.
There's no wacky joke for why he needs the quarter.
Right.
He needs it for his laundry. And Kelsey
exactly.
Grammer,
That's
I
great.
could see the post-classic. It's like, I need that quarter for my thingamabob. It's just like
to pry off the back of my pocket watch while I reset it.
Exactly.
Like,
Something too much.
Yeah, you're right. Kelsey
laundry was
Grammer
hilarious.
makes it funny.
Yeah, which is why Frasier is such a great show. I watch Frasier all the time, and this is not a joke.
It was the first show that allowed me to stay up past 9 o'clock so I could watch it.
Yeah.
South Park was the next big step a few years later where I was allowed to stay up to 10:30.
Oh, wow.
I was not, so I'd feign going to sleep at around 9:30, and then I'd sneak down to our basement TV and
To watch Frasier?
to watch South Park. Frasier would be funnier.
That would have been very funny.
I really wanted to be able to talk about South Park the next day at school.
That's why I did it, yeah.
So I would put the TV on like volume 3 and hold my head up against the speaker
Wow.
so I could watch it. And you know what I found out later? My mom knew I was doing that, and she felt so sad that I was trying so hard to be cool. She just let it go.
Why wouldn't she just let you stay up so you're not like getting brain cancer
I have
from putting your
siblings,
head
you
up to a
I
cathode
have
ray
siblings.
tube?
The rules have to be the
Yeah,
same
she has
for
to put up
everybody.
at least a front of
Yeah.
doing it.
You're younger though. I guess you had a younger sister.
I have a younger sister, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I remember staying up, I think I had like a 9 o'clock bedtime, and just when Seinfeld was really taking off in like 92 or 93, before it was on in syndication, I have a vivid memory of like watching it from the top of my stairs and like watching my parents watch it in the living room.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I did watch Seinfeld all the time, and so I don't know. So maybe Frasier wasn't why I got. Oh, you know what it was? There was a special Frasier that was on at 10, and that was actually the first time I got to stay up past 10.
Okay.
All right.
The old special
I kind
Frasier.
of remember it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the one where he drops his quarter for his laundry.
So Sideshow Bob goes to live in his storage unit.
Yeah.
This is another scene. I had no idea this was in this episode. I thought this was part of the bomb episode from season 7 because I remember this really well. I used to always think about this. Oh, thank you, kind innkeeper. For the very brief period of time, our nation was obsessed with Storage Wars and all those storage unit shows.
That was way before
Still happening.
This was before any Storage Wars type shows.
Oh, no, yeah, I know. I'm saying, back 3 or 4 years ago when I would watch Storage Wars, I would always think of Sideshow Bob being like, oh, thank you, kind innkeeper.
You thought he was in the Omega Man episode?
No, I thought it was... the Omega Man episode.
That's what you just said you thought it
No,
was.
the bomb one where he
the
takes
other
the
bomb episode. Okay,
Sideshow Bob's Last Gleaming.
The other the time Springfield had a nuclear bomb. Which is funny that...
another guy at the... they're all working on their plans for revenge, and they all hold up weapons, and one of them has an atomic bomb.
It's like, been there, done that.
I thought
you
Sideshow
had to
Bob...
go for the old vintage model.
I thought Sideshow Bob would make a joke like that, like a been there, done that type thing,
and he didn't.
but do it in a more erudite way.
Yeah.
Like
They
as
didn't,
Mark
though.
Twain once wrote, I have been there, and I
Been
have done
hence and
that.
done thence.
So he lives in the storage unit, and
hence and done
he
them.
gets a job at a school, which I thought they were going to do something with. It would have been fun to see him as Willie's assistant. And
Right.
they don't really do anything. Basically, he cuts right to the chase and gets Bart, which is part of his plan.
Yeah,
but there is a scene where Skinner interviews him.
I want to talk about the Skinner scene. So he says, Skinner's looking at Bob's resume and says, oh, your multiple graduate degrees surely entitle you to assistant janitor, but I am a little concerned about your murder convictions. And he says, well, most of those were Bart Simpson. What did you guys think of Skinner's reaction? Skinner just kind of laughs it
He's
off
like
and
the
says, oh, he's
Roadrunner.
like the Roadrunner. He doesn't go down.
I liked it and love it.
Are we to infer that Principal Skinner has also tried to kill Bart?
Well, we kept saying while we were watching this episode, this is really dark, and I think that was
There was
one
a
of
lot
the
of dark
darker
stuff.
I
jokes.
don't think it was that dark, but it's Sideshow Bob episodes are always dark.
Well,
and that's it.
He threatens to kill them all the time.
Yeah, this episode where Sideshow Bob brainwashes a child to be a human bomb, not very dark.
Manchurian
Well,
Candidate
there
style.
was one where he's going to nuke millions of people.
No, that's not
I mean,
as
I
dark.
He
think that
ties
Skinner-
people up on a boat. That's a direct parody of a movie where a guy sexually seduces a 13-year-old girl and then is scalded with boiling hot
No,
water.
that's not nearly as
I
dark.
mean, is there
Not as dark.
anything based in reality with a principal seeing any murder convictions, let alone of one of his students, and being like, that's fine?
The
No,
Bronx
but it is funny that
public school system.
it is funny that Bart is so bad, and it's always that Bart is the worst kid that's come through Springfield Elementary.
Yeah.
He sets records as far as
It works because Bart is Bart.
It worked. No, I did like the line. I was just curious.
What I liked the most of this scene was so he hires Skinner, and Bob just starts doing his maniacal laughter, and like the screen goes black, and you're like in his head, and he's like,
It begins.
and then it just opens, like it cuts back to reality, and Skinner's like watching him laugh.
Right, and Bob says, "Oh, I'm just excited to get my start of my school announcing career." And Skinner just does the smallest head
Like
nod.
he just gives like a really subtle, satiated nod.
Yes, and that was the act break.
Yeah,
and I loved
was
that
great.
nod. That
Again,
was great.
if they weren't trying too hard with Skinner having a funny line comeback.
Right, you didn't need it.
Because it's Skinner. Skinner nodding is hilarious.
Yep. And Skinner just accepting that Sideshow Bob is crazy,
Yeah.
and he's just like, "Oh, it's fine."
Yeah. Or I took it as Skinner agrees that the morning announcements are very important. It's worth being that excited about.
I think
I mean,
that's all there too.
And
Of
that's
all
all
the things we've learned
communicated.
about Springfield Elementary's administration, I feel like this isn't even breaking the top 5.
Yeah, and that's
you're right.
all communicated in his nod, and that's why it's great.
Yeah, agreed.
A world without Krusty. What would that be like? What's on TV?
Nutsy the Clown?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
He uses the morning announcements to call Bart to the shack behind the school. Again,
Unescorted.
I was shocked there was no scenes of Bob being Willie's assistant. I thought that could have been a lot of fun.
That would have been great, taking him down a peg. Maybe
Yeah.
you get rid of the parole scene. You had time for that.
And
scene.
again, it's Bob in a new situation,
yeah.
and it's humbling him. It could have
Yeah,
been great,
it could
but I
have
guess
been
there was
great.
no time for that. This was a very straightforward.
Could you
plot.
have that scene without another rake gag?
I didn't need the rake gag, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bart goes to this
Well,
shack.
yeah, Bart is called to the shack, and I just want to point out real quick that Bart sees it's Sideshow Bob and is not at all scared because he says, "I'm 6 for O with you," which I like. That was a
Yeah.
good
Well,
touch. Like, he shouldn't be scared.
I thought he should be scared not because Bob is a terrible killer. I thought he shouldn't have been scared because, again, the last time they parted, they were friends.
That's
and
another
they
point.
saved each
Yeah,
other's
that's also
lives.
true.
You're right. Also true.
That's why I thought he was going to say it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not scared of you. I'm 6-0." It's like, no, that's not. You shouldn't. They're friends.
Yeah.
Again, that's me being Simpsons continuity
But that's
nerd.
it is. But you know,
Nerd alert.
yeah, what a nerd! God, are we gonna make a funny voice now in your stupid podcast? You nerd.
You guys want to talk more about The Simpsons?
Oh, is this a new guest? Who is this?
Hi, I just got my retainer and I'm here.
Oh, okay.
It's every wee listener ever. Hi.
Hi, I'm a big fan. I sent you guys a diorama.
Oh man! Oh, thank you. Oh, so much.
It got lost in the mail.
Well, when it arrives, I will find some space in my living room where I have all of our
diorama
dioramas.
shelf.
Oh my God, thank
which
you.
I love having my dioramas, but it's always weird when I get someone who doesn't listen to podcasts show up to my place and go, "Oh, that's cute."
What's that? Nice.
It's fan
Where you
art,
gotta go
and
by.
it means a lot to me, and it's actually a huge token
No,
of respect.
that's pretty fantastic. I aspire to be at a point where I get fan art from anybody
Are you
for
going to
anything.
have Real Housewives of New York dioramas? If you're listening, we listeners,
Yeah.
please start putting some effort into giving our guests some stuff because, again,
Yeah.
I have no more shelf space.
No.
Make them a Real Housewives of New York diorama.
Sure. I'm not going to reference anything from that show because you guys won't get it. But
No, we won't.
there are plenty of things you could do. Anyway,
House-
I'm sure you
Housewives.
could. In New York.
The
In New
Empire,
York,
the
yeah.
Empire State Building.
Yeah. Did
you
they go
just
to the
have to
Empire
like
State
hot
Building?
glue like a New York keychain into like a cardboard box, and that's it. Like
There
a
you
little.
go.
There you
That's
go.
all.
So
They're
we
actually-
listener, get on it.
Get on it. So,
Yeah.
so he lures Bart into the shack. They see each other. Bart's
Oh, wait,
not
we
afraid.
were talking about the rake
and
reference. I
and-
forgot we
and
got
he-
off on a
so
tangent.
he's going to kill
Yeah.
Bart, and he hits a rake. He hits a rake.
Well, Bart says, "You're my arch nemesis" or something like that, or
Oh, yeah,
arch
yeah.
nemesis comes up somehow, and then Sideshow Bob steps on a rake.
No, he steps on the rake first. He goes, rake, my arch nemesis. And
Oh,
Bart
is that
goes,
how it
I thought
happened?
I was your arch nemesis. And he's like, "Yo,
I have a
he's
life
like, I have a life
outside.
outside of you, Bart."
Right,
It's
right,
like,
right. Okay,
your
I
life
forgot about
outside
that.
of Bart is you stepping on rakes because that also was when you were trying to kill Bart. That
Yeah,
doesn't make
it's
any
true.
sense.
I mean, just like the visual of him
That,
getting
to
hit with
me,
the rake.
that was just,
I don't know.
No, I didn't like it. I thought it was,
No?
hey, the rake gag is one of the greatest moments in Simpsons history. Let's call back to it.
But it also kind of is a meta thing where it's like the whole joke with the rake gag was it was going on long. Well, how about this one that comes like 7 years after the other rakes?
Yeah.
On that level, I kind of like it.
I guess if he didn't, the fact that he goes, rake my arch nemesis. I guess that was
maybe
too
that's
much.
too much.
And it's kind of before that rewatch culture that we have now, where you've seen that rake episode 1,000 times. At this point, if you'd only
Yeah.
seen it however many years
Yeah.
before, you might be like, I remember when we watched that episode and
Yeah.
they did the rakes.
The rake one.
Haha, I
Yeah.
remember it. I'm a true fan.
True, I guess.
Sorry.
It's not just true, it's true TV.
That's your face was just the definition of begrudging consent.
I mean, I don't even think I don't concede. I don't know. I thought the rake that could have still worked even if he just steps on the rake. He
Yeah.
didn't need to say rake.
Doing this
I liked
podcast,
that I have the life outside of you.
doing this podcast has become a drain on Jack's life.
It really has.
Every
Your
time
hair has
Hemus comes out,
Your hair has gone completely white.
I did have more hair in the back of my scalp when we started
that's true,
this
you did.
podcast.
And I seem to be gaining hair. I don't know how that works.
You're
Hair in
suffering.
new
You're
places.
taking my hair force from me. Siphoning my hair force.
That's right. I want some of that hair force.
Just wait till your arms look like Robin Williams.
Oh my!
My hair levels are in complete stasis since the beginning of the podcast. So
For now.
You're
For
Even
now.
Stevens.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
So there's a fun production thing I liked here. So he hypnotizes Bart.
Yeah.
First tries to use the quarter, he drops it, and then he uses a spinny wheel thing.
Well, he
target.
gets a bullseye. Yeah, a target.
And he spins it to hypnotize Bart. And I liked how Bart's big matte graining Simpsons eyes turn into the spirally
Yeah, like
thing.
hypnotized
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah, I actually didn't like that.
I thought it worked well for the graining style big eyes.
Yeah, it was cartoony, and if
It
you
was.
if you twirled a target, it wouldn't turn into a spiral. That's
No,
not,
I know.
that is
that's
true.
not how
I
that
know.
works.
I know.
But that felt like a classic thing, like hypnotizing somebody with that and their
Yeah.
eyes turning into
So-
spirals.
Yeah, I
it's
was
a minor
also
thing.
expecting more hypnotist stuff. I thought it was going to be like Clockwork Orange, where they tape his eyes open, and there's funny things that he shows him to make him hate Krusty.
Oh, that could have been good.
Like I thought, I was
Yeah, you're
expecting
right.
it, and then I was like, oh, he's hypnotized. He's walking home. Very next scene is he walks back home, and he's just like, hello, mother, hello, father, I am hypnotized.
Right, and we never really see like a negative result of the hypnosis except at the end. Like, there's no moment where there's another thing that he's programmed into Bart that comes up in school or something.
Yeah, he only programs him to hate Krusty. And
Right.
there's like a practice run scene, which
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that, but yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of him turning Bart into like a Manchurian Candidate type thing.
Yeah, but there should have
I
been more
liked
to it.
There should have been more to it. You're right. The only thing we really get is when Bart goes back home.
Yeah.
They ask, "Where have you been?" And Bart sees like a floating head of
Yeah.
Sideshow Bob saying, "If anyone asks where you were, you're at the flower shop." And Bart says, "I was at the flower shop." And that's not even a Bart joke. It's a Homer joke where Homer says, "Oh yeah, I also was at the flower shop, getting drunk at the old flower shop." That was a
love
great
that.
line.
Yeah.
That's a great line, but it doesn't really make sense because that only makes sense if Homer knows Bart's using that as an excuse.
Right.
Because why would you
You're
say,
very true.
I was at the flower shop, if you think Bart was there to immediately go, no, you weren't.
Yeah. And everyone knows he gets drunk all the time.
Well, I guess if Bart had given a legit excuse, like I was hanging out at the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homer could be like, I was hanging out at the library. Yes,
Yeah.
getting drunk at the library.
I always get drunk at the library.
It's the best way to do
It
it.
really is. It's open to the public.
I said library on purpose, by the
we
way.
know,
Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm not.
We put everybody knows we vet our guests and put them through a grammar and literary test.
Yes.
So then now they're doing a test run.
test run, yes,
Yeah, and
let's
they're
talk
in front
about
of Krusty Burger. There's a model Krusty, and he unblindfolds Bart and he says, "Okay, Bart, kill Krusty." And
Right.
Bart just starts working the groin
Yeah,
with
he
the baseball
just
bat.
smashes him with a
I like
baseball
that.
bat
I
right in the
like
crotch.
that.
I liked it too.
How did you feel about the Cletus cameo?
Well, I didn't really get why Cletus needed to be there. Like, it's
No, I didn't either.
Here's the thing that happened a lot in this episode, where there was like a joke, quote unquote, but it wasn't very funny. And the joke here seemed to be that like,
does happen a lot in the post-classic era.
well, it seemed like the gag was Sideshow Bob wanted a picture with he and Bart while Bart is smashing Krusty, and it was Cletus who took the photo. But Cletus doesn't say or do anything funny.
No,
Yeah.
the only joke, quote, if you can call it that, is that the camera auto focuses and Cletus is like, "Yep, I got it," which
Yeah.
I don't
What is
expect.
that?
I think that
I don't
was,
know what that is.
I think the autofocus thing was stand-up humor. It's like, hey, you ever ask somebody to take a picture and they treat you like an idiot, like you don't know how to
it's
use a
just
digital
not-
camera? That's very like, what's the deal with digital camera?
On the flip
that's
side-
stand-up humor at its
I mean,
Yeah.
most
this was
stand-up.
2001 when maybe not everyone had a digital camera, but there's
Yeah.
still, I find there's not a lot of humor in that
No,
moment.
no.
Yeah.
The
or
only,
any, to be honest.
what's the story beat? I guess it's just Krusty was. I mean, Sideshow Bob was so excited. His plan. He just wanted like take him.
That's just Bob's pride because he's
but
excited
that's
that
a
his
lot-
plan is so
that's
good.
a lot of work for that one very tiny beat.
Yeah, no, I agree. It shouldn't have been in the
The
episode.
cops, I thought, shined in that moment, though. I thought that was. I thought their
So
scene
they
was
cut.
funny.
They cut to inside the Krusty Burger, and
Yeah.
Wiggum and Lou and Eddie are watching. They see this, and either Lou or Eddie's like, "Chief, you should check this out." And it's Krusty, and you just see Sideshow Bob going, "Yes, kill Krusty
Yes.
the Clown, just like we'll
That-
kill him tomorrow."
I thought all that was great.
That made me laugh
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was cartoony, but it was so over the top,
Right.
and it was so silly. Just him going, "Kill him like we'll kill
Like we'll
him
kill
in
him
real
tonight."
life tomorrow."
Yeah. That was great, and I've never noticed how often they really do cut to the cops just for a random non sequitur thing until you pointed it out a few weeks ago.
I have my moments.
Anything that highlights Wiggum's ineptitude, especially when the other cops are saying, "Look at what's happening,"
and it worked. It did work in showing his ineptitude by him saying, he just goes, kids with wooden bats these days. It's good to see a kid using a wooden bat. That's showing Wiggum's stupid. Okay. He's ignoring the guy saying he's about to kill Krusty. What I didn't like was
it went on.
Yeah, he goes, aluminum bat this, George W. that. What? George W. that?
I forgot that. I just was thinking he takes a mini pinball game from Lou.
That was
and
too
they're
much.
Playing
I didn't like the mini.
What is this?
It's like, hey, look, he's inept. He's playing it with the Happy Meal toy.
But that's again is this a joke? What's funny about this?
That he's a kid. He's dumb. And he plays with toys.
No,
he's too easy.
I play with toys.
Yeah, no, it would have been. It should have stopped at. It's good to see kids using wooden bats because the joke then is unsaid. The joke is he doesn't get that the guy just said he's going to kill someone.
That would have been the end. That's
now
the
you're
end.
doing this overt. I'm playing with pinball. So also the George W. thing felt very, very tactile.
Yeah, actually, this was the point in the episode that I wrote this down in my notes. A handful of good bits in this episode, but a lot of it doesn't make me laugh or shudder. Like nothing is so bad and nothing is like really great.
No, I agree, but I do want to mention one more thing in this scene is there was a nice little detail that I don't really see even in the HD era where they do densely pack the frame with like lots of little tidbits and stuff.
Right.
So he's smashing the scene ends with him still smashing Krusty's crotch. And one of the nerds from the Homer Goes to College episode is across the street, barely seen, and just stops and stares because again, imagine if you're in the street and you see this, it must be really weird to see.
Yeah.
And it was such a subtle background gag, and
I didn't even notice it.
I saw him, but I didn't know who it was. But
I think the joke was, imagine if you were walking by and saw that. But that's a very specific type of joke The Simpsons rarely makes.
Yeah,
I thought
that's weird.
I thought it was really funny. I liked. I didn't think it was really funny. I thought it was really nice that they put the effort into it. Mm-hmm. Like I wish they would do more stuff like that.
It's nice when there's effort.
Did we skip the scene where Sideshow Bob has his fantasy about?
No, that's the very next scene.
Oh wow!
So why don't you tell us about it, Christine?
So they set up that now after Bart has smashed this statue to smithereens, that Bart is in the like, what are that called? The balcony seating of the
balcony.
Yes.
The balcony. Yeah, I was going to refer to it as the whatever the Muppets are, those two Muppets, Staten and Waldorf.
Oh yeah.
Their seats.
The S&W seats.
And in like an exact, like almost, I think that's exactly what happens in The Manchurian Candidate. He's in the balcony of the theater, has a sniper rifle, aims it at Krusty. Krusty gets shot and turns to ash.
Well, it's a flamethrower instead of a sniper rifle. So yeah, he just incinerates Krusty.
Yeah. And then Sideshow Bob comes up and says, "I'm taking over the show now," and that's when you kind of realize that it's a fantasy.
Right.
Yeah.
What that do for
at
you
first
guys?
I knew it wasn't real once Krusty was incinerated, but it was really funny. I thought it was just like, this is really ridiculous that Sideshow Bob would build a holographic danger room to like that was the
that's the first thing
that was the first thought in my head was that he made a holographic danger room to like he's to practice the scenario, and I was like, where did he get the materials for this? Oh wait, Dream, that makes much more sense.
I would love to see an episode where Sideshow Bob builds some sort of holodeck danger room situation.
First you burned Krusty, then you stop the Sentinels.
He just turned his storage unit into the Imaginarium.
Now that's an episode I'd like with Troy and Abed.
That would be something. I do want to mention at this point, so because I thought of it when I was watching this. So the Danger Room dream sequence is Krusty on stage, and the big scene where the Manchurian Candidate type scene where Bart is going to kill Krusty is Krusty's final show. I know we've talked a lot about how the B theme was not strong and they could have done a lot more with it. I'm so glad it was there, though, and as opposed to nothing. I could easily see a newer episode or even an episode from this period where basically Bob is trying to kill Krusty again, and it's just a random episode of the show, and they didn't have this backstory of it's Krusty's final show, and Krusty's going against the notes and the show execs. Basically,
right. Well, that didn't have to have the show notes.
Yeah,
thing.
I know, but what I'm saying is
I
wasn't crazy about the B theme and the B plot of Krusty's final show, but I'm glad there was something. I'm glad it wasn't just, we'll kill Krusty at a random time, which the newer episodes, even though we say we like a lot about, there's a lot of things about the HD era that these seasons lack.
Yeah.
I do think a big problem is they usually don't bother with those kinds of details. They're like, this is what we want to do for this episode, and we aren't going to do a lot of work building the scaffold for it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I like that there was scaffolding here.
There were problems in this episode, but I don't think the story structure was one of them. It was great. It was there's a big moment coming up. It's Krusty's big retirement special. It all made sense.
The structure itself is great. I guess the content of what it's like. Basically, it would be like the wooden aluminum bat. It's like we're glad they built a framework for the house. We just wish they used better materials.
Right. Yeah. I like it.
And George W.
for some reason.
I mean, I don't
Makes
know
sense.
that I think Lisa had like one line in this episode.
Yeah,
I don't know that Marge was in any of it.
Marge was only in that scene where Smithers comes in and says Maggie shot Mr. Burns
and that
again.
is surprising. This was almost like a retro Sideshow Bob because most of the Sideshow Bobs after the earlier ones were Lisa-centric. Especially Bart, but especially Lisa, but especially Bart.
Yeah, and Lisa was definitely a part of
She foiled
solving
the last
the
few
problems.
of his.
Yeah,
6, 7, and 8.
I could have seen a moment in this episode where Bart's acting so strange at home because they don't really have him switching off and on between being this killer and his normal self.
They should have done more Manchurian Candidate type stuff. Yeah.
Right. If he had been home and acting normal, and then Lisa maybe says something
Lisa's
that
getting suspicious.
yeah,
about
Lisa
this?
would be the person
How
to
about
get
this?
suspicious
He and
of
Lisa
this.
are watching a Krusty rerun on TV. Krusty triggers Bart, and Bart like kicks in the TV or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
And then Homer's just like, Lisa's
Sit down,
like,
I can't see.
Yeah, Lisa's alarmed, and Homer poo-poos it.
But
yeah.
then Lisa might be the one to
realize
save,
something's wrong.
right?
Yeah.
To save Krusty versus this redemption Sideshow
That's
Bob.
not, that's
moment.
not Bart.
Well, in the end, a monkey saves Krusty,
Well, I
which
do want to get
is
into
not
that.
great. I would much rather it was Lisa.
So they cut to the big scene, the big final Krusty show. They're on the red carpet. What did you think of Rainier Wolfcastle coming out? And he's like all disheveled, and he goes, "I do nude scene. I play nerd."
Him saying I play nerd was kind of funny.
That's why I wanted to bring that up, just because I actually really thought that line was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah.
But why is he in?
I guess
is that a commentary on Schwarzenegger?
I guess the gag is Schwarzenegger was reaching the end of his acting
But he
career
was
there.
running for governor. Oh, I guess
well,
not quite yet. Not quite yet.
That was a few
but
years off.
I guess his movies worked hard to start bombing in that
yeah,
period.
like The Sixth Day
and the firefighter
Collateral
one.
Damage.
Yeah. All right, I guess that's what that was.
What
It
was
made
with
sense,
the Gary
but-
Coleman thing?
Gary Coleman was a recurring character in this period of the show.
Yeah, he was
as
a guest in
himself.
multiple episodes.
And
this
it's funny,
season.
if he didn't die, I think he just fits in the universe. I think he could have been a very funny recurring
Like
character.
the Adam West of Family Guy, where
Yeah,
it's just
exactly, yeah.
playing himself.
Although, to be fair, Adam West was on Simpsons first,
they
and he did a
kinda-
much better job.
They kind of stole it from
Pure
Simpsons.
West.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to know my audience here.
Yeah,
You do.
boy.
You do.
Oh, are you a big Family Guy fan?
No, not really.
All right, that's
All
good.
right, yeah, you passed the test.
Wait, do we watch Downey's dickering though?
I have.
Is it on your DVR?
It is.
You can't escape from us. We know everything.
We do heavy vetting. We really fucked up that one time we had Sarah Palin on the show.
Yeah, that's true. You know, she
She went off on a
She was
rant.
very
It
charming.
sounded like she knew what she was doing.
On paper, it seemed like
it
a great,
seemed like
great,
a can't miss one. But in studio,
she was a
wasn't
crazy
so good. She
dum-dum.
went rogue on us. It was pretty bad.
She
she
did
was
go-
a crazy
Going
dum
rogue on ya. Did somebody say my name?
She's back.
Sarah,
Hi.
hey Sarah.
Good to see you.
Oh man, we loved having you on that one Simpsons episode.
The one we didn't release.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Oh yeah. How's what's your kid's name? Trip.
Gotta go by.
She always does that when we're asking about her personal
She
life.
really does quit right in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's very
She went rogue again.
She went rogue on us.
Her hair went white,
I'm
and she
going
started
It was-
absorbing our powers.
It
She went
was-
rogue.
It's very rogue of her to commit to something and then not follow through with it because it was hard. That's very rogue of her.
Very rogue.
A lot of character work there.
That was good.
I like this. I think we mentioned this earlier. I like so that they go, here comes Krusty the Clown retiring for the fifth and final time.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I wrote that one down.
I mentioned to you guys while we were watching this that it's funny that Krusty is this kind of like amalgamation of all of these showbiz tropes without really being a direct.
Yeah, he's not. He's based on some TV clown from that was big at the time when Matt Groening was
When
growing
Matt Groening
up,
was a
and-
kid,
and it was
yeah.
based on a very specific one from his.
I think his name was
Yeah.
Rusty the Clown. I think is what it was.
Yeah, and but you're right. He's not just a TV. He's not a Howdy Doody Rusty Nails parody. He's a parody of showbiz in general.
Right, because once they established him as a character and he was a recurring character, he's like the showbiz guy. So
Yeah.
anything they want to comment on show business, you use Krusty.
Yeah, he's an awful human being.
Right.
He does drugs. He has sex with lots of I don't know, whatever the word was he used.
That was a weird moment where he mimed like humping.
He mimed thrusting.
and he said like augas or something.
Yeah, that
was
was
so weird.
Yeah, we saw him thrust.
Yeah, and like
I
it was like
that.
a smoking. It was a
I
smoking
smoked a
one.
lot of
wow.
Yeah,
That's
You
okay.
can
I
show
like drugs.
thrusting, you just can't show penetration. I thought thrust
that a
up
thing?
you. I thought thrusting ups you to like from PG to PG-13. Or
I don't know,
something.
man. I just knew it was weird. It
think-
made
But
me feel
like-
icky.
But when they say retiring for the fifth and final time, like I can't think of a specific TV personality that said that they were retiring 5 times. But I know that
Barbra
that's I know
Streisand.
that that's a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's a really weird moment where Mr. Teeny does a striptease.
Yeah, well, I think this
right
was
after
right
the-
after Full Monty had come out, and it was like one of the biggest movies of the year, and it's a huge pop culture phenomenon. So they did the Full
It
Monkey.
wasn't right after. I think Full Monty was 97. This was
Wow,
2001.
the Simpsons usually
Takes
take their
a
time with
while.
their.
You guys got a problem with a sexy monkey?
No, it was off-putting and strange.
I guess the reason this was here was so that they would set up why Teeny was on the catwalk later.
Yes.
Yeah, but he could have
But-
run out and given
But
Krusty
what I
the
thought
mic or
was it's
something.
really weird that there's no Sideshow Mel. He does show up a little
He
later
shows up
for
at the
one
very
line,
end, yeah.
But I was like, why wouldn't Sideshow Mel be here? Because A, it's a final show and he works very well with Krusty, and B, we've never had a Sideshow Mel, Sideshow Bob scene, and this seems like the perfect type of
Oh, that's a good
plot to
point.
have that.
You're right.
You could have Sideshow Mel versus Sideshow Bob.
Yeah, I think that would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
You could have.
Man, that's a real missed opportunity. You're right. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, I have my moments.
You do have your moments.
They did seem to be pretty cozy when they sat together at that booth at the end.
That's what I was going to say. So then after
yeah.
I wrote that note down, Mel finally does show up, and then they sit next to each other, but they don't do anything. There's one joke
No.
where the episode ends with them taking a picture, and the joke is that Mel was making a face.
Well,
and
they
again,
all
that's-
made faces.
Oh, I thought Mel was the only one that was like caught off guard.
No,
Oh,
no,
they
all
were?
of them were,
I guess
yeah.
I was specifically looking at Mel because I was like, hey, Mel's here.
Whenever Sideshow Mel's on screen, Jack, you're
he
transfixed.
commands the frame, but especially Bart.
I think it's funny that Krusty is so involved with the Simpsons family, and yet Bart comes up onto the stage to give him a hug, and he's like, "Look, a kid."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, usually
He never
you would hate
remembers
that.
Like they
You
went
would
out to
think-
dinner afterwards
Yeah.
all together.
Yeah. I just want to point out real quick, there was a line where Sideshow Bob is mixing the plastic explosive, and he tastes it, and he just goes, that's good plastic explosive.
Yeah.
What was that?
That's a parody.
Is it a reference to
Yeah,
something?
that's a reference. I don't know what it's a specific reference to, but it's a reference to classic Simpsons. I've done even 2 or 3 times. Like, that's good, squishy, and it's a reference to some 60s or 70s TV thing that the writers really like.
It was weird.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
No,
I didn't like
the
it.
only reason I didn't like it was because it did nothing.
Yeah.
But they've certainly done a parody of that specific line several times.
Right.
Also,
All right.
eating plastic explosives seems like a terrible
Yeah,
idea.
terrible idea.
Well, I think he's saying, the chemicals taste like they're going to blow up real good.
There you go. That's what he was saying.
Sure.
Yeah, so there is something here I did really appreciate, but I wish it was a little bit better. I love when they do vintage Krusty clips.
Yeah.
And they do 2 here, one from the 50s and one from the 70s. And again, I just usually really laugh when we see Krusty's show from another decade. I love the Robert Frost. I love the Falklands have just been invaded.
Yep.
But this one was, he's doing a thing about Sputnik because the Russians just did
Yeah,
the
he was
first-
like Sputnik, I think.
and the joke is the cord, the flying cord harness gets caught up in his balls and hurts him really bad. And he
Right.
goes,
My Bolsheviks are uprising or something?
my Bolshoi's doing the nutcracker.
That's it. Yes,
And
yes,
it's
yes.
like, it's just
But then there was something
was
about
okay.
pants
Sounds
that he
like-
wasn't allowed to say pants on.
Well, that
TV.
I like. So then he goes, but I was off the air for 10 years. You couldn't say pants back then, which is a reference to how, like, on I Love Lucy, they couldn't say the word
Right.
pregnant. And,
Or, like imply
Right.
that
Yeah.
they slept in the same bed or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought that the pants was funny, but I thought the Bolshoi Nutcracker line was just kind of lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really like either of it.
I did like,
Either
and
of
then
the
the
lines.
next one was the laugh in, and I thought this could have used a little bit more, but I did like the idea that he got trapped behind the trap
The doors that
and,
open.
laugh
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
and people stick their heads out, and he
We
just
all
can't-
know laugh in.
Yeah, and he couldn't stick his head out. He's just like, "Hey, trap back here, help me out." He references one of the other laugh.
Yeah, it was like
in
Artie or
regulars, yeah.
something. Yeah.
I liked.
It was okay.
I love vintage Krusty. I just wish that these two could have been
Those were not
funnier.
the strongest vintage Krusty clips. What did you guys?
So, yeah.
I was
Did you
gonna
start
say-
with the lighted guy?
Yeah, I was. When Sideshow Bob climbs up the catwalk, he's standing above Krusty, which Christine pointed out when we were watching it. Terrible place to be.
Yeah.
Now,
You
like
don't want to be
the
above an
worst
explosion.
place.
Yeah,
to be.
you do not want to be above an explosion.
No, definitely not.
In fact, he probably should have just hightailed it out of the theater entirely.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That would be the best place.
But he said, Bob says something about how this is going to be his Waterloo, and Krusty's going to be Napoleon blown apart.
Yeah,
which I like as a
It's not,
pun.
it's
as
not
a
the
pun
worst pun.
lover.
It's not the worst pun.
It's not the worst pun, but then it pans over to the lighting guy who just scoffs.
Yeah.
He says, I forget what he says, but then Bob just goes, "Oh, shut up, Leo."
Yeah. I like that the lighting guy is in on the plot. He knows.
Yeah.
He clearly sees that.
Right? He just doesn't care that
Yeah.
someone's going to blow Krusty
I
up.
liked. I forget. I think Sideshow Bob says this is a perfect place for revenge, and then he just takes out a bag of potato chips. He goes, "These potato chips are a perfect snack for revenge." I like that.
I like that too.
Presumably, everybody at Krusty Studios is very, that's their old coworker. They all know him.
That's
That's
true.
true.
You know what? I didn't even think
Maybe
about
they
that.
think it's a surprise
Of course
that
he
he's
would
going to
know
come out.
Leo.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think of that either. Classic
That's why
Leo.
I'm here.
That's why you're here. Pointing out the Leo
All right,
bits.
Not all
so
that stuff.
I've said it a few times now. The B theme, the framework, we like that it's there, but it was a little weak. But I do like that the twist is character driven. It's not totally out of nowhere. That basically Krusty says, you know what? I've treated Sideshow Bob fairly. I just wanted to say, wherever you are, Bob, I'm sorry.
Right. I like that
and
he
that's
apologizes
why Bob
to Bob.
changes his mind.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that it's not a Deus Ex.
It's not, but I thought it didn't make any sense. Like, it could have been better in the first act if
needed
that
to
was
be set
sort
up
of set up
better,
a
yeah.
little bit.
It
Because
didn't, yeah.
Krusty said he taped over all those Sideshow Bob episodes and that they were terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, why would he suddenly have this change of heart?
Also, the fact that, again, Bob framed him for murder and tried to put him away for jail forever.
Right.
So it was one sided. It was too flat. It needed more meat to it. But I like
Yeah.
that it was there, and I like that it wasn't completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just
You
wish
know,
it was set up
everything
more.
about this episode, I don't think they did anything wrong. They just didn't do it strong.
You just needed to tighten the screws on this one, I
wrong, not strong.
think. Long,
It does
strong,
seem like-
about to get the friction on.
If we're talking, and we wouldn't have an episode if this didn't happen, but if we're talking about like effort to reward, like all Bob wants is Krusty to give like a 30-second acknowledgement of his time
pretty
on
much,
the show.
yeah.
Exactly.
And like
yeah.
he couldn't have maybe like called and asked for it. He's got to
Yeah.
set up this murder
He's
plot.
too proud. I think that's in fitting with Bob's
And if
character.
the legacy was that important to him, why didn't he record the show on his own?
That's true. Is it fitting with Krusty's character that Krusty would have this this moment of softness?
Not well. Yeah, maybe I could see it. Krusty's a big softie at points, but I just
Sometimes,
think
yeah.
there's no reason for him to suddenly, like, at the very end of his retirement special, he's like, "I want to thank Sideshow Bob and forgive him."
It was
just
shoehorned in.
it's there, pop. It's there because it's the end of the episode, and Sideshow Bob
Right,
needs something to change his
Yeah,
mind.
I don't want to overstate that. It's like, oh, it's amazing that they did this. I was just glad that,
No.
unlike a lot of Simpsons endings,
It made sense.
It, wasn't
made a certain
completely
amount
out
of sense.
nowhere.
It just
Yeah.
didn't make all of the sense.
So
We
he has
want
this
all of
change.
the sense.
I need all of the sense for my laundry.
So he has this change of heart as Bart is taking the world's longest,
Longest walk.
from
Yes.
like the fourth row to
Yeah.
the stage.
Yeah, I guess that's just.
And yet,
by
as much
time,
as
I don't know.
Sideshow Bob like hustles down from the catwalk, he can't get past the like four
Yeah,
people
so
waiting
actually,
in the
that's
wings.
a really
Right,
good
right,
point to
right.
make. Is that Krusty, this character-driven twist where Krusty says, Krusty forgives and Sideshow Bob changes his mind. While it neutralizes Sideshow Bob, it really has no effect. Teeny would have, I guess, stopped the bomb anyway, whether Sideshow Bob wanted him to die or not.
That is a great point that I did not think about.
Which
You're right.
I didn't like this whole. I thought the ending really fell flat, where basically Teeny sees the bomb from the catwalk, swings down, pulls the Bart. I don't know how he pulls the bomb off Bart's vest.
Right,
but
he pulls out
He
of
does
the-
in
yeah.
one svelte move and throws it in a room with. Well, first he's going to throw it in a room and he sees there's people in there, but he realizes they're network executives.
I just realized why it was Teeny who did it. Because if they wanted the joke of the network executives blowing up, you have an animal do it as opposed to an actual character.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So it was really there to set up the great joke of network executives are the T-1000.
Yeah, because then they die, they all blow up, but they don't really die. It's okay, everybody. They are T-1000s because network executives are evil robots.
Right.
Yes, we get it.
Yeah.
So here's why I don't like this. For one thing, again, Teeny, it has really no Teeny. You're right. Teeny did it because he's an animal, but it doesn't resolve any character arcs.
No,
yeah.
it was a fumble. It's
not
a big fumble
yeah,
at the end
it's
of the
not
episode.
tied into Krusty forgiving. Bob should have took the hit or something.
Not at
But
all.
you're right. I guess you can't have Bob kill.
I
the
guess,
network
yeah,
execs.
right.
Although that's my second problem with this is.
That they don't die. They
Yeah.
should stay dead.
Well, yeah. Well, you have, maybe you shouldn't have had them die at all, and then you could have had brought in Sideshow Bob indirectly, because what does that accomplish, especially since they do come back as T-1000s? Does that mean Krusty's still not going to do a show? They make a comment that it was great ratings, but his problem wasn't low ratings. His problem was he was sick of being micromanaged.
Yeah, I didn't understand that line. Krusty says his ratings go through the roof every time Bob tries to kill him, but he had literally just
That
retired.
was the very first time Bob had also tried to kill. I guess the one other time
No,
was
he
with the
tried to
nuclear
kill him.
bomb.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they did say in the beginning part where he's doing the bit at the Italian restaurant, and they say make it like Seinfeld, or
Yeah.
our ratings are
Right,
dipping
right.
with certain demographics.
Yeah.
I guess maybe.
So I guess the ratings got the network execs off his back.
maybe, but is he
Okay.
gonna? That doesn't mean he's gonna
Look,
come back.
we're doing a lot of heavy lifting to make it make sense. I
I'm
think
just
it
saying,
could have been better
yeah.
in the show.
I'm just saying the B plot was, man, network execs really got to stop giving notes and let creators do creating, if that's the theme or whatever.
Right.
And that's not at all where there's no arc basically. And again, it's a B
There's
theme,
an
and it's
attempt
a
at an
weak
arc.
B theme, so you don't need an arc, but
Yeah.
it's not there.
Well, it has a kind of a dark ending, and I guess that's where we're getting to.
Yes.
Maybe that is the creative saying, look, we're going to push on this kind of dark episode and not pander to making things light and nice at the end.
I guess. I don't really think it's dark, but it's nothing new. It's nothing the show hadn't done before.
Well, the very, very end of the episode is Sideshow Bob's eating dinner with everybody, and they say, "Oh, it's time for your." Krusty says, "It's a shame that you're getting the death penalty," and then they pan over and there's a guillotine with Principal.
They're going to
Chief
kill
Wiggum.
him right there in the restaurant.
Like Bob's like, "What happened to my trial?" He's like, "You're thinking too much about it, Bob," or something like that.
There was the one. That was the one line I liked out of the whole exchange. Was
Yeah.
Wiggum says he goes something about like him being a smart ass or something.
Right.
It's basically the same joke as you just don't know when to quit, do you, sexy boy?
Yeah, right.
That was a little much for me. But I guess the show had to end. But again,
Right.
you're ending with Bob on good terms.
Yeah.
Which I guess the next time they do it is when he helps Homer solve the crime.
Yeah, that's
so
the next
that
time we
does
see him
make
is the
sense.
Great Louse Detective, which we've already done.
Yeah, so that does make sense.
So go back and listen to that episode and see what we thought of that one.
Yeah.
But he didn't kill anybody. Teeny did.
Well, I guess he was going. I guess it was attempted.
Attempted murder?
Attempted murder.
You get-
Oh,
you
really?
get the
Now, do they
guillotine
give a
for that?
ride to tempted chemistry?
Attempted chemistry.
Chemistry?
That's a weird Bob
It's a weird
Mel
yelling
baby. Blob.
Blobby?
Sideshow Mlob.
Sideshow Mlob. All right. Anything else that we want to say about this episode?
No, it was not strong, but not wrong.
Not
I
strong,
cracked up
not wrong.
at the chalkboard gag. We didn't talk about that, but it was.
We did talk about it, didn't
No,
we?
we didn't talk about
No.
the chalkboard gag.
It
What
was
was the
like
chalkboard
that.
gag?
That hamster did not have quote a full life or something like that. It cracked me
That's
up.
pretty dark, too.
That's dark too. They killed a hamster.
Watch the shiny quarter, Bart. That's it. Oh, damn it, where'd it go? I needed that for laundry.
Okay, so it is time to rank this episode, and to do that, we're going to be using our Hippo scale, looking at the humor, the integrity, the production values, and the originality of this episode on a 0 to 5 scale. So, Jack, do me a solid. Can you put 2 minutes on that clock?
I guess. Just give me a second. Just gonna reach over for the
Taking a long.
buttons that start the timer and make sure it's plugged in. And beep, boop, beep.
There we go. Okay, so we got time on the clock. Day of the Jackanapes from season 12. The humor, Christine, what did you think from a 0 to 5 scale?
2.5
0 to
being
5.
2.5,
average,
right in the mid.
4 to 5 being like the best 90s episodes of The Simpsons.
Thank you for explaining that
Yeah.
for me.
Here's how numbers work. They go up from 0.
0.5,
I'm gonna
by
say-
the way, is the halfway.
Do you do 0.5s on this scale?
We do
0.5s.
0.5s.
Okay. I'm going to say I had a couple of solid laughs. And I would like to say I'm probably not as critical as you guys. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay, 3 out of 5. Jack,
I
what are
might
you
go
thinking?
3. I was thinking even 3.5, but you know what? 3 makes more sense.
3.5 sounds crazy
Because
high
the
to me.
jokes weren't too that strong. There was lots of times where I laughed. There weren't a lot of jokes I hated.
Well, there weren't lots of times I laughed, but it's mostly that I didn't hate things. That I'm
Yeah.
going to go right in
I
the
didn't
middle.
hate things. I didn't love things.
I'm going to go 2.5 right down the middle.
That's not wrong.
Alright.
That's not wrong.
No, it's not. The integrity, that's kind of where the characters themselves, like...
Was anybody
was this-
acting out of character?
Yeah.
It would be like if Sarah Palin committed to something.
Right.
That
Am
would
I
be-
starting
that-
each
that would
one?
be
Is
a-
this-
that would
is
be a
this
low
ladies
integrity
first?
Yes,
score.
I'm looking in your direction.
I feel like I'm setting the
Ladies
stage here.
first.
Integrity. I would say I'm going to say I think everybody. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think
Okay.
everybody acted pretty much like themselves.
Okay,
They
3.5.
did. I also like to consider whether there were some really strong emotional beats in the episode for this category.
Would we count
And
these continuity errors about the whole Bob thread of? Would that be integrity? That he was reformed, and why
I
would
guess
he do this?
it's not. It's
I
more
might
plot.
dig it a
It's
little
more
bit on
plot
that.
than character. I don't know. That's a gray area, but I guess I'll dig it a 0.5 for that. There's no real emotion. Like basically when Krusty and Bob do find a peace between them, and there's nothing really there.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to go right down the middle again. I'm going to say 2.5. Like, this is not an offensive episode,
Yeah.
but it's not a great... This is not an episode I'd show to somebody, like, you got to watch The Simpsons.
It's not bad. It's
No,
not
definitely
rad.
not bad, not great.
Not rad. Not bad.
Very good.
Now, what do you mean by production values for the P?
By production values, we mean the animation, the sound design, the acting.
Were there any cool things
the
they
direction.
did? Were the jokes enhanced by the way they framed and directed them?
There was actually one. I know we're waiting for Christine to answer,
Yeah.
but there was one actual visual thing that I didn't get to mention. I kind of liked when Sideshow Bob's sneaking onto the studio and there's 3 potted plants that look like his hair, and he's behind
Yeah,
one
that
of them.
was funny.
That felt,
They've
that
done
felt like
that
a
before.
rehash.
They've done it
with the-
before.
it's not as good as the statue with
I
the
just still like
exhaust
it.
of the
Yeah, that
jets.
one was-
I
you're
thought
right,
it was
that one was better.
it was like a not escalation of
Yeah,
that gag.
you're right.
I
But
did
I
like
still
where
liked
his
it.
eyes were hypnotized. Like that's a cool production trick. I like where the screen went black and when Sideshow Bob is like in his own world laughing.
Right, they do that all the time
yeah,
with him, though.
Yeah. But So there's things there.
There wasn't anything glaring to me that was very. This is subpar for The Simpsons to me.
And was there anything that was like, oh my god, that was amazing how they shot that?
But I did notice when you said that when we were talking about packing the frame and the character in the background, that did catch my attention. And now that you're talking about those couple of different moments with the the darkening and there wasn't really any great sound moments that I can recall.
Not really, no.
Not even with the rake.
I'd give it
Oh, you know what? With production, we also consider voice acting, how well the actors did, especially the guest actors.
I mean, Kelsey Grammer
killed it. So
that is true.
And yes, we're
excellent.
used to it at this point, but it's still this episode. Should still get points
That's
for it.
bumping my.
Getting the bump, the grammar bump.
I'm gonna give it 2.5.
There you go. Jack, what are you giving it?
I might go 3.5. I was gonna go.
That seems high too.
I know. I have it at 3 right now. But I almost want to give it a 5 just because Kelsey Grammer is so good.
But he's so good in much better episodes.
Yeah, but we're not ranking
great.
Voucher. We're ranking this episode, and in this
This episode is
he's
not a
so
5.
good.
He is
Well,
great.
without him, what would it have been?
But nothing else in this episode. Like we're not ranking.
So if he's giving it,
2.53.
if he's giving it a bump.
But you're not ranking. We're not ranking Kelsey Grammer's performance because
We
every
are.
episode
That's
would
what
be 5.
No, that's what production is. Production
No,
is.
it's not. But I'm saying it's not the only thing that we're ranking. Like there's other things in
Yeah,
this
so I
episode
would
that weren't
take
as
things
good.
away. You're right. So Christine's right. I would have given it a 3 without Kelsey Grammer because Kelsey Grammer. But the thing is, Kelsey Grammer is so good. I could give it an extra 2 full points. Is what I'm saying. How it get to 5. But I'll just give it a 0.5 more. I'll give it a 3.5.
That's a sane.
Well, leverage my
sane
2
one.
point. You give it what you want.
I'm also going to give it a 2.5 because I'm very middle of the road.
3.5, I said.
I'm giving it a 2.5. Didn't you give it a 2.5?
I did.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should listen to other people's rankings, Jack.
Maybe you should give
Hey.
Kelsey Grammer 5 points for being Kelsey Grammer.
I will
I try
give
to
him
remember
10
that, like,
points.
when you were in school and you're like, oh, I got a C, it's a bad grade. C is supposed to be like average,
Yeah.
right?
It's a C+.
But you always feel like it's bad
feel
to be
bad.
right in the
Yeah,
middle
there
of the
you go.
road.
Yeah.
But like they did exactly what I expected from The Simpsons.
We're
Plus
grading
Kelsey
on a
Grammer.
curve here.
Fine, plus, but Kelsey Grammer is what I expect
The
from
question
The
is,
Simpsons.
the question is, how many points extra do you give for Kelsey Grammer just being great? I could give him 10.
Of all the guest voiced actors, he's
the
up
best.
there.
He might be the best.
Yeah.
By the way, 2 minutes still on the clock. We're
I forgot.
running out, right?
It says low bat.
And originality, our final.
Not recording.
I hope it doesn't say that. Originality, our last ranking category. Christine, what are you thinking there? Any story problems we would weigh against this category?
They retread a lot of old boards. We talked about the Sideshow Bob stuff, kind of having been there, done that.
Yep.
Been thence, done once.
Yeah, and we've said a number of times that we like the structure of this episode, but it just kind of didn't come together. So
Yeah, I feel.
It's not original, I guess.
It's not, but
I guess they never did a Manchurian Candidate.
it may not be the best.
The
but it's
Manchurian
far from the
Candidate
worst.
thing was close enough, I thought, but they made it Simpsons-ized. We did have some problems with the story, but I don't think that it was just out. I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay, solid ranking. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Hey, I'm on a theme here. This episode was very middle of the road to me. I didn't hate a lot of it. I didn't love a lot of it.
Yeah.
So 2.5 straight down the middle.
Framework was there, but wasn't great. It was sort of original, but it wasn't. 2.
Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Season 12's Day of the Jackanapes has ranked pretty well. It is a slightly better episode than Bart Mangled Banner, and a slightly worse episode than Bart Hood. That puts it at number 53 on our current list.
All right.
Pretty good. That's
not
middle
bad.
of the road. That's where I expected it to
Yeah,
be.
not bad. Not great.
So
Not
there we
bad.
go.
Well, you did mention that you remember watching this episode and thinking this isn't as good as classic Simpsons, but now in hindsight...
In hindsight, I would say this is one of the least funny Season 12 episodes we've done.
Yeah.
How's it rank compared to other Season 12s?
Compared to other Season 12s, that's a good
just did a
question.
season
What are
12,
some
didn't
other
we?
Season 12 episodes that I might know?
There's one with Michael Keaton as an artist from prison. There's
That
Homer
one-
versus Dignity.
Yeah.
What is the Season 12 we just did?
Yeah, Homer versus Dignity is our worst Season 12. Then Simpson Safari was up higher than that one.
Yeah, I didn't
Worst
like that
episode
episode.
ever is up higher than
I
that
like
one.
that. That one was okay.
Pokemon, better
I
than
love
that.
Pokemon.
Skinner's Sense of Snow we liked a lot, and Bye Bye
Funny
Nerdy
episode.
is the one we just did.
Oh,
That ranks. It's our
almost-
second best
yeah,
episode
that's
right
our
now.
Second least
So,
worst episode.
yeah, so there we go. And that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. If you have an episode you'd like to suggest, you can do that on our website. We have a form just for that. It's weepodcast.com, weepodcast.com. And while you're there, click through those Amazon links, and you can get to show notes, Facebook page, Twitter accounts, the Reddit. Our subreddit is our official discussion board, so go there.
There may be a Freet, or may have already happened, a Freet AMA.
You guys demanded it. I've asked Freet.
I guess it hasn't happened yet. We should probably we want to plug it on the air.
It hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
but I'm very touched. I created a Reddit account just for this.
Is yeah. So,
Freet Goldberg.
He's
Freak, get off me.
Freet is has
I'm
no.
looking for love.
That's a characteristic Freet Goldberg has. He has
It's
privacy
true.
issues. He's kind of
Privacy issues?
Yeah,
What issues?
he gets all up in people's personal
God,
space.
that's not one of my
He
characteristics.
makes all women uncomfortable.
I'm feeling it. We don't need to share a mic. There's one for you.
I think we do. Do you need a ride home later?
I'm okay. I gotta go, guys.
I'll
I'm
help
so
you
sorry.
out. Oh, another one runs from Freet.
John Kasich says
I'm gonna see if I
that.
can get a ride with Sarah Palin.
John Kasich says that it's up to you, Christine, to stay away from parties, alcohol, and Freet. It's up to you to not be raped.
That's why Freet is. I've never raped anyone. Don't make me out to be something I'm not. I'm so lonely.
Freet's kind of like, he's such a likable guy. He's like this generation's Cliff Huxtable. if
All
you
I
ask
know is
me.
I definitely have not consented to whatever this is right now.
I thought I
Freet
could
does-
sit in your lap. I'm small. I'm gonna just go. I would look forward to my AMA on the worst episode ever subreddit.
Okay, that's that. Also, leave us iTunes reviews if you
Yeah,
haven't.
that helps us out a lot.
And while you're on iTunes and while you're checking out podcasts, you should check out Christine's podcast.
Yeah, if you happen to be somebody like me who likes The Simpsons and terrible trash TV on Bravo, The Real Housewives of New York, please check out my podcast, RHONY Recap.
And what's your
Definitely.
podcast Twitter or social?
It is at RHONY, RHONY, it's Real Housewives of New York, at RHONY_recap. And we have a Facebook page too, so you can like us on
so
Facebook.
check that
Very
out.
nice.
And where can they find you personally on Twitter?
Oh, I'm at Hnath. That's my last name. It's HNATH.
All right, I'm at
right.
Jackie No Breaks.
I'm at Then Dan Says. Yeah, and next week we're gonna come back. We're gonna do another one, and
It's that time of year,
that time of
folks.
year. Oh, the bats are coming, and
It's a Christmas there.
it is not Christmas. It is going to be Mayoween next week. So
mayonnaise there? That's
Oh, boy.
food.
No, it's about Ween, the band.
This character work is just exceptional, guys.
The kids love the Dracula, our
yeah.
our dumb vampire.
It's really working in the ratings.
Absolutely.
Network execs are breathing over your neck.
Do I Snapchat or do I drink blood?
We're going to be doing our Mayoween, traditional Mayoween episode. We're going to be watching Treehouse of Horror 25 from
That's
season
from
26.
Last Halloween?
Last Halloween?
No,
well,
two
not
Halloweens
this
ago.
past one. It would have been Halloween 2014.
Okay,
right when we
alright.
started the show, actually,
Wow,
this episode
okay,
aired.
so there it is.
So there you go. We're going to do
We've
that next
looped
week.
into ourselves.
Yeah, we have. Oh my God. Am I Bruce Willis or am I
the
Joseph
hu-
Gordon-Levitt?
We're the human centipede of
Oh, that's an even
podcasts.
worse loop. Oh, man. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
By the way, I met somebody who's like, "Yeah, I was good friends with the girl from Human Centipede," and I was like, "Oh, okay, which one?" He was like, "The front one." I was like, "That's the best
That's
one."
the best one.
That is.
You don't want to be in the middle. Middle's the worst one. Although I guess you don't care if someone's sewed onto
Yeah,
your
I
butt.
guess
So
the
what,
last
it's really,
one's the-
you want to be first.
The
You
la-
don't want to be
yeah,
last.
The last one's the worst because you're doing all the butt eating and you're not getting any butt eaten.
The last one
There
is
is
just
somebody
eating.
into it. But like at some point, somebody wrote that script. But before that, they came up with that idea, and they were like, "This, I'm going."
I'm going to make a movie
I
about
haven't
this.
seen the third one, and I have seen the
I haven't
second,
seen
but
the
I don't
third.
remember it. But I'm assuming the best way would be to link them together so that everybody is in the middle, right?
So
Have
it's
you
like
seen that-
a human loop.
Yeah, exactly.
Have
It's
you
a
seen that
looper.
thing that's like describing movies in a way that doesn't reflect what they're about?
Yeah, we did it on our 90s percentile
Oh, did you?
podcast a week ago.
Oh my God, maybe that's where I heard of it.
Oh, it
Closing
must be.
the loop.
What?
But the Human Centipede one is like a small town doctor brings three people together.
Yes, I've seen those. Those are good. All right, that's it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. Thanks, guys, for listening. Christine, how do we always end the show?
I have no idea.
Well, you bet you got one chance.
Figure it out.
You got one
This is
chance.
it.
Make it
With a-
happen.
with
What's
a-
our
with
our
a-
catchphrase?
With a goodbye? Cut?
What's our
Oh,
catchphrase? No,
cut
don't
it
tell
all.
her.
I got it.
No, you didn't.
No,
It's not cut it
kinda.
all.
Cut it all. Some of it was good.
Cut it in both.
All right, one more. You got one more chance.
I don't know what
You
it
know,
is.
cut is part of it.
Cut it out, Uncle Joe.
There you
All
go.
right, there it is.
we go.
That's our
Cut
new
it
closer.
out.
Well, I think it's good for a show to go off the air before it becomes stale and repetitive.
Maggie shot Mr. Burns again.